to As It Goes, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Lydia. I'm the founder of Reself, the digital platform connecting you in the most meaningful way to yourself, each other, and the world we inhabit. I hope you're having a beautiful day, and if you're feeling a little down, I know today's episode is going to inspire you and light a spark under your internal fire. I'm so excited to share this episode. First, if you're not already part of the Reself community on Instagram, head over and join us at reself.ing. Little play on the noun verb definitions of reself, which you can check out on the website. I'll drop the link there to explore that little fun play on words. But over there on the Instagram, you'll get your daily dose of reself perspectives to reset, reignite, and keep everything going. Eventually, we'll revisit why I decided to utilize this space of social media as a tool for connection, even with my personal qualms and my story about not personally using social media since I was 18. I will also link that in the show notes if you want to check out that episode of our conversations here. But for now, let's enjoy the infinite gray areas of life together, huh? Okay, if you're a tiny home fanatic like me and you love watching videos of tiny home builds, off-grid cabins, van builds, as you slowly plot your home masterpiece, this episode is for you. I sat down with Vaughn Dabney, the founder of Unoma Haus, building smart modular spaces for eco-conscious consumers to live and work more sustainably. Vaughn's passion, knowledge, and heart will invite you to open your mind and heart to what's possible for yourself and for our world, to rethink how you're living and offer simple solutions to live in harmony within, so that we live in harmony throughout our connection with Mother Earth, each other, all interconnected, all one, as we begin to solve these root problems, which you know we're all about here at Reself. Within, we can begin to move out and solve the root problems of the ways we live, the ways we consume, the ways that we engage with the world around us, so that it's the most meaningful, harmonious way. It's not idealistic, it's nature, baby. And without further ado, let's dive in. Vaughn, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Vaughn Dabney. I am the builder of the tiny home truck, which is my current home inside of a delivery truck. And I'm also the founder of Unoma Haus. And we are a company that is redefining home by creating a network of sustainable housing options, which include building livable spaces inside of Sprinter vans, as well as smart modular homes that can actually generate their own electricity.
Amazing. So cool. Okay. Already so many questions. First, what brought you to this point? What brought you to alternative sort of living spaces, and founding Unoma Haus?
Yes, that's a great question. I think, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I think the precipice happened when I was younger, talking 4 or 5 years old, and it just came full circle. My grandfather is part of the inspiration for me building my home inside of a delivery truck, because when I was younger, and still to this day, he's always lived in a converted van, a camper, a trailer, a truck with a living space in the back of the bed. So he's never had an apartment or home that I've ever seen since I've been alive. And moving into this space of, I was in downtown LA, I was paying $2,000 a month for rent. And then I traveled the country for 2 months. When I came back, I didn't want to pay rent anymore. There's zero return on investment, and money's just going down the drain. So I wanted to think of an alternative solution, and I also wanted to do something that seemed exciting. And so instead of getting a tiny home that I had to pull with the trailer, or instead of getting, a container home, which I had to have land for, I wanted something to meet in the middle. I needed a vehicle that could also be my home. And I went with the delivery truck, your typical FedEx, UPS type truck. And
High ceilings.
yeah, high ceilings. I have 7-foot ceilings, and I have 126 square feet that I used. And I built my home in that, and it was the most exciting thing that I've ever done in my life to date. And when I was done, which was around 2019, 20ish, I've always been an entrepreneur, so I knew people would come and say, "Hey, are you doing this for other people? Can you build me one?
Hmm.
Selling your truck?" And so 2 years later, or a year later, actually, I started my company, Unoma Haus, and I stopped all my software development. I tapered that off, and now I've been running this company for 2 years, and it's been incredible. And it really is just, it is to redefine home. It's to get us thinking about what are the other options versus living in this apartment or condo or home that's in one place that you can never take with you. Whereas our philosophy is, why can't home be wherever you are?
Mm.
Why can't we create a home wherever you want to be, and also give you access to homes on demand? And so we're working on a subscription model where you subscribe every month, you pay a certain fee, and you have access to different homes
Hmm.
anywhere we have them, anywhere in our network. Right now, we've really democratized housing. Now we've created housing for people who want it, and obviously we move into the space of the unhoused, the disadvantaged, the people who are living on the streets of cities all over. Mostly in the U.S. is where I'm focused right now, but how can we provide housing for everybody, because we have too many resources for everyone not to be housed?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think it's so poignant how much that experience of building your own home is then when you say, okay, I did this for myself. I can do this for other people. And I also want to do this to solve a major issue in our shared spaces and in our community. And it's so important. And I think, you know, first off, like for me, I'm so curious about this space. I love watching YouTube videos of people building tiny homes and cabins and like self-sustaining homesteads because I really resonate with that. And that's like, it's a goal of mine because I think there's so much to one, I mean, if it's up someone's alley, to actually physically building your own space and being a part of that. I think, you know, there's so many ways that we're disconnected from our food, from our
Yeah.
homes, from all of the things that are part of our everyday life. And I think that there's a deep meaning. And I think that it's clear from your journey, the meaning that comes from being involved in that process and also saying, hey, wait, I know that we have this model. I know mortgages are a thing that we accept as like a norm and but how are or rent, how is this not
Yeah.
serving us? What are the alternatives? Yeah, it's so
I think to your point,
mhm,
um, at least in my eyes, housing was not only created for shelter, but um, for community, right?
mm,
If you look at housing as a community builder and a fostering of community, a vehicle to foster community, that's that's what every house should contribute to. Every home should contribute to community, right? And I think we've moved away from that. It's become
No pun intended.
just a place. Yeah, we moved away from that. It's like we're building just for, I mean, primarily for the financial gain. A lot of developers are building for financial gain, right? Let's be honest.
Right.
Uh, we're not building to create community. There
Mhm.
are certain cities across the globe that
Mhm.
are, though, and
Mhm.
and I think, at least in America, we need to look at some of those cities that are fostering community by building community.
Mm.
So again, that's part of our core values. Like, we are building community by building communities, uh, to go back to you knowing your neighbor, and to go back to the world is bigger than myself, and to go back to we're all in this together, and every effect that I have on you will have an effect on somebody else, right? The butterfly effect, the chain reaction. So I
Yeah.
just, it's important that we get back to community.
Totally. Totally. It's such a great point. And I think, again, you know, how many of us know our neighbors?
Yeah.
How many of us, have those connections? I have spoken with someone that's uh in the sustainable development space, and she and her husband are really passionate about this as well, and creating, self-sustaining homes that center around, you know, um like communal garden.
Hmm.
And it's, where we can ask the questions and look at, human centric approaches and redefining it is so, so, so valuable. So I'm curious, um what is your vision, your goal with Unoma House?
I think my vision really has to do with, first of all, access to
Hmm.
housing. But I'm a technologist at heart. I love engineering, and I love futuristic, right? So
Hmm.
I really want to be a pioneer in pushing our country forward in a more sustainable way, but also I want I want a cool factor. I want to look at something in America and say, wow, like that is what I dreamt about when I was 10 years old, about being possible. This home is what I dreamt about being possible when I was 10 years old, right? And the irony is that, we go to these car shows all the time, and we see these really neat cars beyond our comprehension, and they're like coming out in 2030.
Mm.
2030, it's kind of normal. It,
Hmm.
every car looks like that now, or every feature that car has, every other car has.
Hmm.
I want to get to a place where it's like, yo, that's beyond, and it's accessible. That's,
Mm.
I mean, take a look at the BMW i8, right? The i8 and the i3, very different cars from anything else on the road,
Hmm.
and they're futuristic. They look futuristic, and they have features that are futuristic, right? BMW did that, right? I don't know of any car company right now that has released a car that looks futuristic and is available right now. So
Hmm.
I want to do that with housing. I want to create houses that are homes that generate their own electricity, that create a microgrid when you connect them together, that have battery banks that you can charge with your car when you're on your way to work, right? How can we make this self-sustaining, electrical producing home that has a extremely small footprint
Hmm.
and creates, I mean, in essence, a community of electricity, right? When you
Hmm.
connect them together, now you have a grid, a microgrid. So anyway, I won't give too much away because we're building out those features, but I just want to push us forward along with doing good.
Mm, so important, and such a great reminder that progress and doing good are the same thing.
Yeah. And there's I think social good entrepreneurs get the short end of the stick because not many investors and VCs and angels look at the social good industry as a way to potentially make money. And
Right.
there's when you involve humans, there's absolutely money in it.
Yeah.
We're just our focus is not the money, it's to have an affect, to have a change
Right.
in the world, but there's absolutely money there. And I think I really would like to break that stigma down with what I'm doing and invite VCs, invite angels, invite investors to come into this space and help us brainstorm how to make money. If you don't feel that we can make money in this space, then brainstorm with us, because I guarantee you there's money in this, but the social good is priority,
Yeah.
not the money. If you were to give me $10 million and say, Vaughn, make this happen, but you can only pay yourself $100,000 a year to live. Fine. Like, let's do it. I'm
Right.
here. I'm here to hire all the people, get all the facilities, all the machinery, all the equipment, whatever we need to. But I'm here for that, just to produce and create.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I totally resonate with that. Totally. It's so valuable. And I was just speaking to Anna, the founder of Zenimals, and we were talking about on the podcast before this, we were talking about Patagonia and how I
Mm,
think that's going to be, we were talking about how that's such an example in this context of like good is profitable and
mm.
good scales.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, such a valuable um ceiling
Yep.
to have broken through in that context. I think exactly what you said. It's not that either or negate each other. It's all about the collaboration, right? If
Yep.
someone's coming from it from simply a numbers perspective, and you have someone coming from it from a human centered approach,
Yeah.
meeting in the middle is like that's where
Yeah.
something
That's where it's
huge
at.
comes,
Where the
right?
magic is.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, every product out ideally attacks a human problem, right? Like
Right.
every product, that's what every product is supposed to do. However, there are some products that are better than others, right? And that's where you get the company that focused more on the effect on that human using their product versus just a product to make money.
Right.
And and I think there's an apex there. As we approach like a convergence of human centric models with profitability, like where that meets is where I'd like to get to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Same. Same. Okay, looping back because I'm so curious about this.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you talk about your grandfather's philosophy about his like um alternative sort of living and what, I guess, elaborate more on how that impacted you as a kid, because I can only imagine as a kid how that would have shaped your perspective and yeah.
Yeah. So my grandfather is, from what I know about him and what I've talked to him about, uh, he is just a very simple person. He's a very efficient person.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing extra, nothing unneeded, or yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he has a very minimalistic approach to life, and from what I know, he's always had that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Um, wasn't really big on birthdays or holidays. No cards, no calls or anything like that. I think as he got older, he realized that people enjoy hearing from him. But we all knew grandpa
Right.
I call him G, but we all knew G was not going to call you or send you a card or anything like that. Um, However, if at any moment in time you needed something, you could ask him or whatever. He is all about. He loves his family, and I've always seen that. And he's one of the most innovative persons I know in my life. And so he inspired a lot of my inventive ways and uh, my my interest in tools and building. And so he just seeing that at such a young age, I had never seen it before I saw his van. I don't know, I would think I was 4 or 5 the
Right.
first I saw one of his vans. But
What year would that have been?
that would have been like 88,
Okay.
80, 1989, the late
Right.
1900s.
So not a lot of people are doing this, obviously.
Yeah, I
Very.
mean, I think at that time, of course, you had people vans and camping at vans. Like
Right.
van conversions are nothing new. I would say pre 1980s, right? Like you had the VW buses in the
Right.
70s. I'm sure people were living in vans.
Totally.
Probably before that. So I'm not sure when the date it first became a thing, but yeah, I'm sure in the 80s there were plenty of people living in vans. I just never seen it, especially as a Black boy. Like, we don't see that in our communities. My mother's white, my father's Black, but um, I was raised by my mom. But we grew up I was in various Black communities, Black and brown communities, and that wasn't talked about. No one had ever seen that. And still to this day, there are people who are friends of mine in my community that have never seen anything like this, or they've seen it, but they haven't seen it in person. So a lot of the people that know me, I'm the only one that they know that lives in a converted anything.
Right.
But it absolutely became more popular during the pandemic because it was an option. It was an option to travel the country and live and potentially make money if you rent your van out. So anyway, I get off topic. My grandfather had an effect on me more than just building this truck out, but just in general about life and living efficiently and no excess, right? It's just, here's what you need to be happy,
Right.
and enjoy life, but here's what you need to be happy. You don't have to have an abundance of things that you'll never use or never enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I love to play a little game with myself where I ask myself if I was living in a much smaller and much more simplified situation,
Yeah.
would I have two of this? Would I like to play that game because I think it's all about that perspective and, you know, minimalism, simplicity. I think there's so much value in that um perspective. I think especially in America, the West in general, when in a large scale we're kind of sold pursue more and you'll be happier.
Sure.
And I've been thinking of this question since prior to jumping on this chat. Have you read Walden by Thoreau?
I have not.
If you're into it, I totally recommend it. It's
Yeah.
so interesting. It's about his 2 years that he spent living in a cabin that he built. And it's I think he's kind of funny and sarcastic about the way that he reflects on, that being so different from the life of people in Concord, Massachusetts at the time. And um his simplicity. Like one of the things that stood out to me that he said was, I had nothing in my cabin. Like I never locked my cabin. People would come in, whatever. When I left, he left for a month and went to Maine. And like never locked his cabin. And that was, I mean, I think that is such an interesting little outtake where
Yeah.
it's like, how many of us would feel comfortable doing that for a
Yeah.
month, leave your house and leave it unlocked?
Yeah.
It's right. Um, but it's that idea of how simple and how getting down to those necessities, like what is there for someone to want to take? What is
Sure.
there to take?
Sure.
Um, yeah, I think it's really an interesting alternative to get curious about and to see how we can apply it in our own lives, even just simplifying um, some of the excess in our lives. Because I think for me, you know, in a space where we live, like when we live in such a small space, right, a studio apartment, the more crowded it is with stuff, the more crowded our minds
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
Um, when things are simple, the mind is simple, the heart is simple, and I
Yeah.
think it's actually Thoreau that says this. Um, it's a quote along the lines of like, the luxuries sever us from the truths of life. And
Hmm.
what you described about your grandfather just to me feels like a living embodiment of being connected to those truths
Yeah.
of life.
Yeah. I mean, he traveled almost everywhere. Like he used to send me stuff from all the countries he went to, and uh, he's always he's always seemed pretty happy. I know everybody deals with different things, but
Right.
um, he's experienced so much of life that I have not. And
Mm.
again, he's one of the most minimalist persons I know. Uh, so, and I'm and I also tell people minimalism doesn't mean you don't have. It doesn't have to do with the quantity of things in your life.
Mhm.
Say it has to do with what is the minimal amount of things that you need
Right.
to operate and be happy and enjoy your life, and what does that look like with your industry.
Mhm.
um, Someone I dated a while ago, she was an actress. Minimalism required her to have all of the clothes that she had and all of the shoes that she had because that was required for her auditions or whatever
Mm.
it was, right?
Right.
That's her minimalism. And
Mhm.
so I think it's important that people don't get caught up in reducing their life versus looking at what can be reduced
Mm.
for you to still maintain your happiness and not be overzealous or have things that you never use that are just there.
Right.
I mean, there are a few things in my life that I feel you should have multiples of: is books, art, and plants. So
I love
you,
that.
you have multiples of those all day long and still be happy and still like not feel that you're um, being over consuming and hoarding, like all plants all day long, books all day long.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm there with you. I'm there with you. It's so true. I like what you said, like her minimalism,
Yeah.
really looking at, I something I like to say is like, you know, my Lydia-ness, your Vaughn-ness of
Mm.
something. So that's exactly, it's such a good point. It's so not one size fits
Yeah.
all.
No, 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 no. I think people get caught up in that too, in terms of
Right.
being defeated, like, oh, I can never be a minimalist, versus,
Mm,
hey, well, let's take a look. How many saucepans do you have and how many do you use? If you
right.
only use two of them all the time, the rest can go.
Right.
And also looking at, I ask myself questions all the time when sometimes I get rid of stuff or I donate stuff. If I cannot replace it, I'll keep it, especially if it's like sentimental value,
Right.
or something maybe I want my future children to have.
Right.
But and that's very sparingly. But if it's something that I can replace,
Mhm.
I'll get rid of it. There's
Right.
no need. If I'm not using it and it's just here, there's no
Mhm.
reason for me not to donate it or sell it or get rid of it because I can get another one.
Mhm. Mhm. So true. So true. I think also in that context, quality.
Hmm.
That's for me, that was one of my biggest lessons when introduced to minimalism,
Yeah.
was looking at the quality of things, especially like I come from a fashion background, and that's especially been, a passion of mine with the rise of fast fashion, is like when we don't have quality products, this culture of throwaway. And
Mm.
even I think it even goes to what you're talking about with, this is an interesting conversation that I had with my dad, who's a very fix it oriented guy,
Yeah.
build it yourself, and another one of my friends, and we were talking about how I feel like that. And it's interesting because I feel like, not that it's a gendered thing, I feel like it applies to guys more. This mentality of building and fixing. So my dad, my friend and I were talking about like how many guys off the street in New York would be capable of fixing their drywall if
Yeah.
something happened. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's, the thing is, I feel like it's a generational thing that
Sure.
has been lost. And
For
again, it doesn't have to apply to guys, because my dad, I know how to do this stuff, right?
sure. Yeah.
But again, I think that it's the self-sufficiency. There's
Yes.
so much value and self-worth and empowerment in that self-sufficiency. And it gets to what you're doing with Unoma House, with not only self-sufficient spaces, flexible spaces, but also literally generating electricity from these spaces.
Yeah.
It's incredibly valuable, and you know such a unique perspective that's so necessary. And like you said, that's the future. Why isn't that the future? Why
Yeah.
would we keep going in the
Yeah.
direction we're going that's not serving?
Yeah. Absolutely. I, I think like I'm a problem solver. I've always been this way. I look at things. You can place me in an environment or a workplace, and I'll immediately identify all the inefficiencies and how to solve them, or what resources or tools I need to solve them. And so like life is really that for me. My daily life, I'm constantly looking or thinking about problems, and what potential solutions could be. And um, something as simple as, I believe there's codes starting to pop up, but
Mm.
I was talking to a friend yesterday about fires in the home, and
Mm.
I haven't seen, again, it may have changed now with newer homes being built, but I have not seen sprinkler systems in homes, like
Mm.
fire fire sprinkler systems in homes. I've seen fire sprinkler
Same.
systems in apartments,
Yeah.
but I have not seen many in homes. And that was interesting to me because there's actually a town in Pennsylvania that enacted this, that all homes would have sprinkler systems, and it reduced fatalities by 96%.
Wow.
And it reduced I'm sorry, reduced fatalities by 70% and reduced property damage by 96%. Something like that. Like crazy
Right.
numbers. Right? And since they enacted it, there have been it was something crazy. It was like, I can't remember. But it was proof that,
Hmm.
I don't want to misspeak, but it was proof that sprinklers in homes help as they should,
Totally.
right?
Right.
Um, but how many times have you seen a fire engine or heard of a fire engine pulling up to a house for a house fire?
Right.
There's no mention of like any kind of sprinkler system at all.
Right.
Right. They talk about the cost, they talk about construction, and there's a lot of lobbying against it with developers in terms of various things. But I think it comes down to money. I
Yeah.
think on the money and political things that we don't know about.
Mhm.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so anybody listening, that's not what this is. But I would do the research. I haven't done it yet, but I really want to do the research on what states and cities have enacted these codes to have sprinkler systems. But that is a small example of
Mhm.
why aren't we there yet?
Totally.
Why aren't we there yet? That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Same.
You know, why have we not figured out a way to flow with the effects of hurricanes in the southern part, the southeastern part of the United States, right? We
Mm.
Katrina was 20 years ago, something like that, and we're still hearing the assumption of fatalities. We're still hearing the assumption of people drowning. Like, we have not solved this problem yet. It's
Mhm.
happening beyond 20 years. I'm just talking
Right.
about Katrina to now, but
Right.
we haven't solved it. We haven't come up with any kind of viable solutions to
Mhm.
really attack this problem. Can we put inflatable rafts on everyone's roof, and when the water rises, we can access that? I don't know. What do the logistics look like? But um, I uh, I really just want to be in positions in my life to be able to solve problems in the world. Like, that is
Mm.
my goal. That is my mission. That is what I feel like I'm here to do.
Mhm. Mhm. So clear. It's so clear. I mean, even what you like rafts in every home that just
Yes,
again
something,
make,
something.
but it's just so sad. Like it just makes sense.
Yeah,
It's
something.
just something that makes sense. And it's, I mean, I think what, you know, I think something that I'm learning from, a philosophy background and merging that with entrepreneurship is like instead of harping on the problem, focusing on the solution, but it just one just has to ask the question. I feel like you said, Katrina, something so major happened. And like you said, we're still here. We're assuming, you know, fatalities. And I just read an article in the New York Times yesterday that was talking about, you know, homelessness that
Yeah,
is and has come from this
yep,
um in Florida. And again, it's why?
yeah.
Why when we can solve these things? Something so simple as sprinklers. When you said that, never had I thought about that. Never does it make more sense, you know?
Yeah,
Um, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know why anyone would argue against that
yeah.
or what.
And again, there may be somebody on here who is privy to more information, but I have seen homes without sprinklers. All I need is one, right? There should be zero homes without sprinklers.
Right.
So I'm sure somebody may know of any states or cities or codes that have been enacted, maybe in
Mhm.
recent years or in specific regions of the country, that for builders. But
Right.
I looked, I did a brief search yesterday, and it is an issue. It is an issue that has been raised in various cities where people want sprinklers in homes, and the city's like, nah, that's not going to work. Like, we need to figure out
Mm.
a different way, or it's going to be too costly, or I don't know what, I don't know what some of the rationale is, but
Right.
absolutely cities that exist that have homes that don't have sprinklers. So
Right.
that shouldn't be a thing at all.
It shouldn't. And like when you go back to the numbers piece of it all, the money piece, it's like that's then where you're losing money as a
Yeah.
city because you
Yeah.
have to use resources to solve those problems that come up because you're not solving the root. That's like what I'm doing with Reself is all about that. And it's clear that I think you function at this same thing. Let's solve the root
Right.
problem.
Right.
Let's stop putting
The
band-aids.
symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's so, and again, I think that's also to me, that's where the venture capital and the social entrepreneurship meets
Yeah.
is at that root. Great changes can happen, profitable changes can happen. And um scale of that
Yeah.
happens, and
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to people getting excited about investing in social good ventures. And there are a few people doing that, but like truly creating a culture of social good ventures and investing in those, and even creating, I would love to have my own fund one day where
Mm.
I can do that. I can raise money to invest in social good entrepreneurs that have had a tough time raising money because no one thinks their business is viable.
Right.
I'd like to do that because it that's how we become better humans. That's how we create a better world, a better global community, right?
Mhm.
Is if we look at these social good components and say, we might lose some money on this, but how many lives are we affecting doing that? Until we run out of money, how many lives are we affecting? And who knows what can come from those affecting of lives? There could be another VC that comes out of that pool of people who's been helped, and now they create an even better fund for social good. You just don't know. And that's how I think all the time. Like, we just don't know who's going to do what, how it's going to affect this person.
Mhm.
And that's why it's so important, like, just to be a good human all the time.
Totally. All the time.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, even what you're describing is, I think, the crux of it, which is why, so my background a little bit obvious. So I studied philosophy in college, and I came up during a time, and personally, when I hated capitalism.
Mhm.
And I think that it's a thing right now, and there are reasons why the system doesn't work for everyone, and there are problems in the system that we need to fix, and it's a serious thing. However, it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and I never had an interest in business.
Mhm.
I didn't. Ironically, I was accepted to the entrepreneurship program at my college, and like laughed at it and never set foot in a business class. Um how I think that's very like entrepreneur of me. But
Absolutely.
but I like had a really big problem when I started this, and came from my philosophy, and was like, everyone, this should be everyone should be learning this. Like, this is what empowers us to enact changes in our lives, to have, value systems and perspectives, like your grandfather exemplified, where it's like, we're here to live, to be alive. We've got, as far as we know, this is it. This is the one life, so to speak. And, you know, I think so often when we lose perspective of that, like
Yes.
simple fact and profound fact, that's where a lot of, I think, the symptoms start to arise: anxiety, depression, um, and for example, and I struggled with the capitalist piece of it because of the context and perspective that I had come to that um, with, until I realized, for example, like you said, with um, you know, hurricane prone areas, and for example, solving that problem by putting rafts in everyone's house. That's a problem that business can solve,
Yeah.
when clearly government is not solving it.
Yeah.
And so that was like the light bulb moment I had
Free enterprise.
about, right, exactly. And like, to me, we spoke about progress earlier. I always, growing up when social media became a thing, when technology was like really blooming and blossoming, I was like, this isn't progress.
Hmm.
What about everyone that's unhappy? What about like the actual
Yeah.
issues of life, that root, so to speak? Um, and it sort of made me realize, like, business can solve that. Like it doesn't have to go against it like we've been talking about. And also, what you were just describing is, instead of looking at what's been done in perpetuating that, for example, like VCs, if they have a model that these types of companies do well, this is the return on investment, so we're going to keep going
Yeah.
with that, then you're missing that whole piece of what you described with future visionaries that have real solutions that do real good. And yeah, yeah, I'm just so passionate about it because I think, I don't know why we don't see it yet, like, as a
It,
collective.
a lot of it is bureaucracy. A lot of it is government red tape, local and national. There's just, you know, money drives the US economy in terms of like um, decisions. And most of us know that or should know that.
Right.
No society has ever succeeded being purely socialist,
Hmm.
and no society has ever succeeded being purely capitalist. There's always some kind of balance. The now that middle marker is
Hmm.
sometimes not in the middle. Sometimes it's 70% capitalist, 30% social, but we need capitalism, but we also need socialism. And I think for a long time, socialism has not um, held an importance.
Right.
It is important just as capitalism is important.
Right.
I'm not a socialist. I'm not a pure capitalist. I believe in the two, and we should have both of those. But
Hmm.
a lot of like why we don't get things done is bureaucracy.
Hmm.
You look at other countries and they're light years ahead. Japan is 10 years ahead, 15 years ahead of us. There are countries in Europe that are implementing um, EVs, electric vehicles, a lot sooner than we are. They have recycle programs for food, where
Hmm.
restaurants take the food, they don't throw it away, they give it to. And there are some restaurants here that do that, but why is it not a national mandate, right? Why is it
Mm.
not a nationwide thing for us to do something like that?
Hmm.
And it comes down to money. It comes down to bureaucracy and money and red tape. And so once we can figure out how to move past those things and get people in office, specifically local government, that can make changes
Right.
for capitalism, for business, and for the people, I
Hmm.
think that's where we win.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally. And again, I mean, it's when looking at it like that, it's, for example, when you solve the problem of hunger and not having access to food for everyone, then when you solve that survival necessity, then those people have the opportunity to get out of that state and to contribute and, like, live their purpose, contribute authentically, and that's economically of value.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
Yep.
yeah.
100%. You make more money if people are happy, right? So if you get people healthy and happy, and not everyone wants to be off the street. There are some people that want to live there forever and be autonomous without being part of the society. That's fine. But for the people that do, like,
Right.
you get these people jobs and mental health and substance abuse therapy.
Hmm.
Now you have another citizen that can add to both the socialism and the capitalism side of the American society to contribute and make this country better.
Totally. Totally. Solving problems
Yeah,
one person at a
that's
time.
what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any other questions that I have for you. I guess, in terms of, so anyone listening who's not sold on the tiny house thing, what would you say, like, what are some actionable takeaways? I know we spoke about minimalism and looking at, you know, necessity, simplicity versus excess. And um, what would be some of your takeaways from your own personal experience and your philosophy that we can all do at home to not only simplify but embrace um ways of living like this that might serve us better than what we've accepted.
Well, I think, like you said, the more things you have in your home and your living space, it are it becomes the more things you have in your mind, right? Like it clutters your mind. Living simply, whatever that means for you, living simply helps simplify your life. You don't, we can get silly with it and say the less things you have, the less you need to think about where those things are at when you need them, right?
Mhm.
There's a very simplistic example.
Totally.
The more things you have, you now have to think about, okay, where did I put that book? Or where did I put XYZ, right?
Mhm.
And so with that, again, stay with me because I'm on a simplistic example, but with that comes more time spent looking for things or decluttering, right?
Mhm.
This life is all about, for me, it's about efficiency because time is the commodity and the resource that I'm working for. I don't work for money, I work for time.
Mm.
So living this lifestyle of no rent, no electric bill, the sun is free. And I realize not everyone can do that, but there are other ways to generate electricity. Water bill is negligible. It's $30 every 2 weeks to fill up water. So with this life, I freed up time and money
Mhm.
to now invest in myself as well as other people.
Mhm.
And that was a powerful thing that I didn't realize was coming after I built this truck.
Mm.
This was my home that I was building. This was a new adventure. It was exciting. But with that, it's like, okay, you don't have you don't have to pay rent anymore, Vaughn. You have more money. You also have more time because you don't have to work as much, or you don't have to work as much
Right.
as you did before just to make rent, just to pay bills, just to do this, just to do that. I do have bills, but it's not tied to my living and my security of my home. It's bills to help further my business or
Mhm.
conveniences. But I think the freeing up of time and money was were the two most powerful things for me doing this. And then just the ability to really tap into what it takes to live, at least in this country, in terms of
Mhm.
resources.
Mhm.
Just to give you an example,
Please.
I have a 3 gallon water pump per minute. So 3 gallons per minute, it flows water through the pump.
Mhm.
I have a 21 gallon tank of
Mhm.
water for my shower.
Okay.
So let's just say I take a 5 minute shower, right?
Mhm.
That's 15 gallons of water that I just used. Imagine 15 jugs of water on your table right now, or in front of you right now, right? That's a lot of water. That's a lot
Right.
of water.
Right.
Now, I mean, 5 minutes is a quick shower, but imagine the people average is like 10,
Right.
maybe 15 if you're a woman, you might need to wash your hair, or if you're somebody with longer hair, you wash your hair, whatever.
Hey, I can break that for anyone listening. I can take a 5-minute shower, wash my hair, do everything, and I have
There it is.
super
There
long
it
hair.
is. There
No
it is.
excuses.
Yeah, so people, you can do it,
Right.
but let's not forget that human experience. Showers feel good. They're
Right.
warm. I've done some of my best thinking in the shower or on the toilet.
Mhm.
So the bathroom is a great place. But when you look at that and look how much water, take a 20-minute shower, that's 60 gallons of water. That's a
Mhm.
lot of water. And really, you only need 2 minutes of water. So you wet your body, right? Let's
Right.
say you have a minute of water, you wet your body, you wash,
Mhm.
you rinse off, right? So
Right.
2 minutes of water use is really all you need. So it's roughly 6 gallons on a 3 gallon per minute pump.
Mhm.
Um, Apartments and homes have a little more powerful pumps, so you're probably wasting a little more water. But
Mm.
really just looking at that resource and like, wow, we
Mhm.
really do go through water. And I guarantee you, if number one, we had more posable shower heads that people
Mm.
installed or came standard.
Mhm.
Number two, had meters, digital meters in our showers that show us how much water we're using. I guarantee you people would stop. I guarantee people would stop using as much water
Yeah.
as they do currently. Just like roads, when you put lanes in roads, people stay in them. When there's no lanes, people go all over the place, right? We know countries in the Caribbean and South America just like that. They drive wherever they fit in, and it
Right.
works. As soon as you put a lane down, though, people stay in the lane. It's a
Right. Order.
psychological thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
You give me a pause button and a monitor to let me know how much water I'm using, I'm probably not going to use as much water.
Totally.
I'm going to be so astonished at that. Maybe even put like a how much it's costing you per
Mm.
gallon, right?
Right.
Uh, just little things like that. I think we can do better as a country,
Mhm.
and it's just like little tweaks like that that
Mm.
make you really see how much of our resources that we use and that they're just wasted. you
Mhm.
know,
Totally.
but for anyone listening, I support showers that that birth excellent ideas. I'm not telling you to take a 2 minute shower. I'm just saying be conscious of the water usage.
Totally. Totally. It's the simple thing. I mean, we talked about that luckily, when I was a little kid in science class, and they would send us home, and it's like a fun little game. See how short you can make your shower, see how you can get creative about it.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
Totally. It just, I mean, to me, as I consider this switch in housing, as I look at how this can, how I can create a home that reflects these values, and um that really connects me with, again, the resources that I'm using,
yep,
is I think the water thing is I mean, when you live off a grid, it's like one of the first things you have to think about
yeah,
is size of tank, where your water's coming from, all that stuff, how you're using your water. And it's that, to, like we talked about, bring it full circle. It's like those things that we take for granted or are built into systems that currently exist
yep.
that disconnect us from that. I remember I was probably in the bathroom when I had this thought. I was like, why are toilets clean water? Why
Mm,
is there not a gray water loop system from used shower water into the toilet? Does that
yeah,
not just make logical sense?
yeah. There are systems that you can get to do that, right? There are
Right.
people that have felt the same thing and they created that. So the bigger question is, why aren't houses being built like that as a standard, or why are
Mhm.
toilet systems not being built like that as a standard, to where your shower water now becomes the toilet water, you flush it down, or used sink water now becomes the toilet water, you flush it down. You could even reuse that toilet water for something else. You could use it for gardening, you could use it,
Mhm.
whatever. You can clean that, you can filter it, use
Right.
it for gardening, and now you have plants that use the water. Now you have a full loop. No wash,
Mhm.
no wasted water. So
I'm
I
so
agree.
curious when the disconnect happened in, like, historical development,
Hmm.
because we come from, loosely speaking, anthropologically speaking, circular loops because
Sure,
of the necessity
sure.
of that, working with what is. So I don't, I mean, Yeah, I think it's so curious, and it'd be really curious to look at, historically speaking, when did we break away from circular systems
Yeah,
in the name of progress to these like one-time use systems, really.
right, right, right. Yeah, how can we get back to circular economies and take cue from, again, other countries who are doing it now?
Hmm.
Amsterdam, France, Germany, Tokyo, Japan, like those places are, from what I've seen, they are enacting the least amount of waste programs, right? Like the circular programs, the sustainable programs, or efficiency. So
Hmm.
I think with efficiency comes least amount of waste.
Hmm. And like you said, time. I say this all the time in our conversations here, is it's the only resource that we never get back.
Yeah. Yep.
Again, that perspective of life, death, what's it all really mean to us? That's like the crux of it, is that's that currency.
Absolutely.
Amen. All right, last question, because I feel like you definitely would have some good ones. Any book recommendations?
Oh, of course. Uh, so, 4 Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss.
Hmm.
Um, Another one is Set Boundaries, Find Peace by
Mm,
Nidra Tawwab.
okay.
Um, Another one is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh, I've heard of this one, haven't read it yet.
You gotta read it. You gotta read it.
Okay.
It's one worthy of rereading again. Like after a few years have gone by. Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Um, Business Made Simple by Donald Miller. Um, there's another one called Thank You for Arguing. Let me get the author. Thank You for Arguing by Jay Heinrichs.
Okay.
Like this. Um, Talks about different personality types and using logic rather than logic and reason rather than getting sucked into the emotional side of things to
Mm,
deal with people who like to argue or argue with you. It's a great book. And I think the last one would be The Definitive Book of Body Language. I
mm,
don't recall the author offhand, but it is called The Definitive Book of Body Language. Great book. I love to people watch. I'm a
mhm,
professional people watcher and observer, and I've learned so much about observation that, I mean, I can talk to people and kind of understand the disposition without them even telling me anything.
mhm.
Uh, but that book is a great read. I've gifted it to a friend before. I've told people about it, but yeah, hopefully those are some books that people can enjoy.
Amazing. I will link them all in the show notes. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for
yeah,
that. I think this
absolutely.
might be my new question that I always ask guests. I've been waiting for one to come to me, and yeah, that's it.
Oh,
I
I
love
got, I have,
a good
I have
book.
one more book
Please.
called Finding One, and Finding One spelled out. It's my book.
Yeah. Oh, number one recommendation.
Yeah,
Beautiful. I love it. Will you give us a quick synopsis?
yeah.
What's
It's really just about I wrote it at a time where I was like deep into entrepreneurship, and most entrepreneurs know it's a lonely life, right? You're by yourself a lot,
Mhm,
and I was just looking at life and observations and things that I was learning at the time. And granted, I wrote it in 2016. There are some things that I have modified in terms of like what I wrote in that book, or things that I just don't agree with anymore, which
mhm.
is that's how it should be, evolution. But
Totally.
at the time, it really, I talk about ego. That's the first chapter: ego, communication, relationships, energy, goal achievement, the happiness factor, just all the things that comprise our lives of our experiences and how to address them. And I talk about regrets. Regrets don't serve us at all, right? You can't change anything that happened, whatever. What you do is take lessons from that, but there should be no regrets because it's disrespectful to your journey. You,
Ooh.
can I curse on here? Can I curse?
Yeah, go for it.
So
Go for it.
I have this saying, that when I was doing my book tour and I was speaking about my book, I would get everyone to say this with me, but basically it's, I will own my shit, the good and the bad, and I will not accept any regret because to do so is disrespectful to my journey. So whatever comes with your life, embrace that. Embrace all the things, because you get people that say, I wish I would have had done this back then. If you had changed it, you might not be in the position that you're in now. And it might be a worse off position, or you might not know the people that you know, or you might not have had this family that you have now. Right? Regrets don't serve us at all. And they're just an excuse to feel sad. It doesn't help us. It doesn't help us at all. Like, let that go, accept everything that's happened, and move forward with that information so you can empower somebody else from your lesson, right?
And yourself.
Yeah, and yourself for sure. So hopefully you've learned, but now you can impart that knowledge on somebody else.
Totally.
And help them not make the same mistake, or help them through something that you wish you hadn't done. Right. But I talk about all those things that make us human, and it's a very straightforward book. It's a tough love. I'm either going to challenge what you think or reinforce what you think. It's not a book where you have to agree with me. It's a book to do those two things and to make you think. It's interactive. At the end of each chapter, I have a place where you can write and journal.
Love it.
I have actionable questions at the end of some of the chapters. So yeah, it's a good book.
Beautiful. Definitely gonna grab that. Thank you for that. Oh God, wait, I had something that I wanted to ask along that line. Oh no.
About the book?
Oh, okay. If you had any one piece of advice for anyone listening who has an idea to, we'll stick in the social entrepreneurship space, any idea or is starting something that they believe in, any advice for anyone that wants to or is doing something in this space from your experience?
That's a great question. I think oftentimes people get caught up in money. It could be anything. It could be there's no money in this, or even thinking of somebody else is probably doing this, or even looking at it from a difficulty standpoint, which is something I really want people to, if you take nothing else from this talk or this podcast, discontinue looking at life from a difficulty standpoint. Easy, hard, right? Don't look at things from difficulty level. Look at things from what resources do I need to achieve this or obtain this, right? So as a software developer, people ask, well, is it hard? I can't tell you that. I can tell you how much time I put in to learn how to code, and how quickly you grasp concepts is entirely up to you and your brain. But I don't look at things as easy or hard. Things absolutely become effortless the more you do them, right? Repetition breeds retention. So the more you do something, the easier it gets. But I think moving away from difficulty level and just saying, I believe this is a great idea. Get it vetted by people in the industry, not your friends. Your friends and your family are going to tell you it's a great idea. Get it vetted by people who don't know you, who are objective, and work on getting cheerleaders on your team who can help you bring this idea to life. Because one thing that I never had until recently was a team. And it was one of the hardest things to do as an entrepreneur. You can't do this by yourself if you want something great. Sure, you can make money by yourself, but if you're trying to start a company or grow a company, you can't do it alone. You need a team. Right. And now I have this amazing director of design and operations. She's been with me since June. I've never had a teammate in my own enterprises, and I can't tell you that how grateful I am for her. I wouldn't be in this position right now to date without her. So get your team, get the people who can help you, even if they have never done a business before. If they have some skills that are valued to get you to the next phase, bring that person in, recruit them, and just go for it. There's no, don't worry about the failures either. Just go for it. Proceed, register the company, get the domain, create your mission, right? Have a mission to help. I believe every company should have a mission to help disadvantaged people. So have some kind of mission though, and just go for it. It's an adventure. It's a story to tell people, whether you succeed in the way you want or it goes a different route. It's a story to tell people and share, and somebody's going to learn from your experiences. If we look at life like that, somebody's going to learn from me. So let me just do all the things, learn all the things, take in all the things, and see what happens.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Great advice. Great advice.
Yeah, hopefully it helps somebody.
I'm sure it will. It helped me, so I'll take it.
Awesome.
One done.
Yes.
Vaughn, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your wisdom.
I appreciate this opportunity.